Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today is the day XRP Las Vegas starts today. I'm going to be getting dressed here shortly to go to the conference, and I decided I'd make a video beforehand. Today in the group, we're going to talk about XRP Las Vegas. I'm going to tell some stories about who I've met, who I've seen, so we'll talk about that, and I'll show you some behind-the-scenes footage as well. Go to daixrp.com to join the Patreon, or click the join button right below my YouTube video. The guys from Caleb and Brown will be there today. I'm not sure if they're speaking today or tomorrow. I haven't looked at the schedule, but they'll be there anyway. And so if you haven't thought about getting an institutional custody and having an actual person you can talk to, an actual liquidity when it's time to get out, go to xrpwealth589.com. and you can open an account. It'll take you right to this page. Click the sign up today button. Markets are down. We've got Bitcoin down to 105. I guess since people aren't on stage today talking about how you should buy Bitcoin, the price has gone down a little bit. XRP, the whole market's kind of gone down with it. So we'll move on. Here's from Bitcoin Desk. Hidden Road, the prime brokerage platform recently acquired by Ripple, has launched digital assets prime brokerage for the U.S. market, giving institutional investors access to OTC crypto swaps. And then here's Brad Garlinghouse, and I'll tell you a story about Brad Garlinghouse in the group, by the way. Glad to be in this industry with you. Now, this is David Bailey. He must be one of the good guys. Apparently, he runs the Bitcoin conference, and as you know, Ripple donated the skull, the Satoshi skull, whatever they call it. And he said, I want to thank Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson for extending an olive branch and donating the skull of Satoshi to the Bitcoin community. Very cool of them, and I'm thankful for their acknowledging that Bitcoin mining is green. This is the Modern Investor about WisdomTree.
A company by the name of WisdomTree. WisdomTree, a company that manages $100 billion US, has recently compared XRP to Bitcoin in their latest report. They examined how much XRP needs to grow in order to outpace Bitcoin. And they even argued in their report that XRP is the only altcoin that stands out as a suitable cryptocurrency for a long-term portfolio strategy along with Bitcoin. They said institutional investors are no longer satisfied with having Bitcoin alone in their portfolios. The company said that XRP is the only altcoin that will complement the Bitcoin strategy. Okay, slow it down. Who is that for? It's not for us. Those are for companies. If you are a company who has $100 billion in assets, who are you talking to? You're not talking to us. You're talking to governments. You're talking to corporations. You're talking to entities who are looking to get within the cryptocurrency space. Think of why a company, anyone, would take their time to create a report that specifically says the only other altcoin, the only other coin that stands a chance against Bitcoin is XRP.
Okay. Yes, and then Ripple put this out yesterday. If it's happening on chain, it's happening with Ripple. Find out how blockchain is changing finance and just about everything else too. Now, what's significant about this? Ripple has always been extremely conservative. They never talk about the XRP price and all that kind of stuff. But here they're putting a Wall Street bull in their tweet, and that's a good thing. Look at this. Netflix has announced that Julia Garner and Anthony Boyle will portray Caroline Ellison and Sam Bankman-Fried in their upcoming series about FTX. She's the girl from Ozark. My wife and I watched that. But I made a point here because it's true. The same way when they were prosecuting Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison, they buried the real scandal. They focused on the scandal of Sam Bankman-Fried and her doing all of their shenanigans with the money and spending customer funds and all of that. But they completely swept under the rug the real scandal, which was money laundering through Ukraine and back into the pockets of the Democrat politicians. And so this is how Washington, D.C. and Hollywood works. Hollywood's going to now help them put that in the history books so that the history books only record the scandal of them running their little Ponzi scheme and don't focus at all on the real scandal, which is the money laundering into the pockets through Ukraine into the Democrats' pockets. They're not going to cover that in this, and that's how they will cement the lie in history that doesn't show the real scandal. That's how this country's been operating for years. Look at this the House has introduced the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act. Representative Brian Steele says it's time to bring clarity to the golden age of digital assets. What that means is bring a level playing field. And here's James Wallace from Ripple.
I mean, what excites me the most is the fact that we are getting this traction. There's momentum. It's going to grow. And to me personally, this is really the start of really the Web3 for finance becoming a reality, right? You're never going to have an environment where it's all DeFi, and you're never going to have an environment where it's all TradFi. These two coming together, so using the DeFi type technology into the traditional assets under management, that's what it's all about, right? So to me, that is what's exciting about it.
That's correct. And then this is Jazzy Cooper from Ripple.
So tokenization is really just the digital representation of something in the real world in a digital format. In this case, we're talking about the blockchain. So taking something in the real world, it could be anything. It could be equity. It could be something that you own. It could be a certain privilege, like the ability to vote. And taking that entity or aspect that's off-chain and bringing it onto the blockchain, representing it in a digital format. So typically, once you have an understanding of what you would like to represent, you'll use an existing standard such as ERC20 on Ethereum or an IOU-like fungible token on the XRP ledger, and you'll actually take that real-world thing and represent it on the blockchain. Now, why do you want to do that? What's the purpose of just tokenizing something for the sake of it? There isn't one. So effectively, after you've tokenized it, you want to go ahead and do something with it. You want to send it as a payment, or you want to trade it or collateralize it so you can access a loan and use one of the many advantages of tokenizing real things on the blockchain.
Oh, yeah. And then Smoke put this out. Ripple's building the new Wall Street, starting with Hidden Road acquisition. Ripple's post is strong signal that Wall Street flood on-chain finance has begun, and XRPL is leading the way. Here he's got Ripple plans to leverage the deal to scale RLUSD stablecoin used by Hidden Road as collateral and integrated post-trade activity into the XRPL and Ripple payments. When folks be thinking about this, everything that's built on the XRP ledger, real-world assets, tokenized, stablecoins, everything that they do is going to burn XRP, every transaction.
Or value, and I think that other cryptos, including XRP, have a use case, a legitimate use case. I think XRP's is a wonderful working model. I think that it's only going to get better. They made an acquisition today where I believe they bought a Prime Broker, and that's really big news because that means there'll be almost instantaneous settlement across all asset classes inside that Prime Broker. It'll be a wonderful start to the new Wall Street, that's based on blockchain that moves really quickly. No more 3 days for wire transfers. We're gonna have instant money, and that's good.
Yeah, and you.
All right. Let me see what else we got here. Now, if you're not aware, if you haven't been around a while, Laura Shin is one of the biggest anti-Ripple XRP propagandists, influencers that there has been. This is a woman who every time she speaks, she tries to focus everybody's attention. Oh, Ripple owns a lot of XRP and infers that it's some kind of scam. Same woman has never made any issue out of the fact that the Ethereum founders, when they issued Ethereum, when they had the pre-sale, they disguised all the large whales. So you don't know, they by design, it's intentionally hidden how much holdings they own. Excuse me. They intentionally hid by design, But she never has had an issue with that, because apparently who's ever putting her up to her propaganda doesn't want that focused on. So every time she speaks, she tries to throw shade on Ripple. And in this clip, she's trying to guide this conversation in the direction, if XRP is successful, it's only successful because they have a successful marketing program and there's a large community around it. Just total bullshit. Sorry, excuse the French.
And then just out of curiosity, you said that you felt like it could also work for the XRP one. That one's a little bit different in that XRP, doesn't have kind of like the same level of usage as these other chains, or hasn't quite proven itself. And obviously Ripple is trying to do things to give it more utility, like the circle acquisition or offer or discussions of acquisition. So I just wondered, for that particular asset, because such a huge portion of the supply is owned by one entity, how does that affect, that treasury company?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and obviously one of the risk factors that anyone has to keep in mind when they're buying XRP the asset or XRP the treasury company. But I do agree that is a risk factor that people should be aware of. We weren't investors in the XRP deal recently.
So she guides the interview down a negative path intentionally from the start, even though this guy, if she hadn't done the setup that way, he probably would have gone all positive from the beginning.
But a lot of that was because of the complexity of the structure.
And you can also see there's edits out of this too. You just saw one.
Of this XRP treasury acquisition vehicle. I think the reason why it might succeed is because, sort of beyond the comprehension of a lot of crypto native people, including myself, is XRP clearly has a really, really strong following. There's a lot of, social media influencers that are really into XRP. There's a lot of what I'd call
You're looking at one.
It has a lot of really broad awareness amongst institutions and traditional finance. If these vehicles succeed based on their, awareness and marketing capability, Ripple has proven out over time by its market cap that they clearly have a very strong marketing engine and brand building awareness engine. And it again, hard to comprehend from a crypto native perspective, where that comes from, but you can't deny that exists, and that's why I think it might work.
Okay, so one of the...
Yeah, it might work. These people, we've been dealing with these people since I got in this. It's ridiculous. If they had any integrity, they would be ashamed of themselves, but there is none. Okay, we're going to go into daixrp.com, the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click the join button below. I'm going to tell you some behind-the-scenes stories, some people I've seen, some people that didn't know I was sitting there. It's interesting stuff. I'm a digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. The largest XRP conference and XRP Builder Developer Conference in the world starts today, and I'll see you there. Here we go.